Unexpected truth revealed. Wife's hidden fortune of 1 million leaves cheating husband speechless. Jake stood in the garage, the familiar scent of motor oil and sweat hanging thick in the air. Sockets and wrenches lay sprawled out like a forgotten puzzle. Once, his auto shop was the pride of the suburb, a place buzzing with life where he envisioned a solid future not just for himself, but for Sarah and their 2 kids. But dreams had soured, and with them, his marriage. The hum of lawnmowers outside shrieked of normalcy, echoing the simple life he used to treasure. Now, it felt like a heavy weight pressing down on him, a constant reminder of his failures. It wasn't long before Sarah stumbled upon the truth, discovering the sleazy messages he'd kept hidden. Her heart crumpled like a discarded soda can. Jake had always seen her strength as an anchor. He could get lost in her unwavering support, but now, her face mirrored disbelief and betrayal. Those eyes, once filled with compassion, burned with disappointment. "How could you do this to us?" she demanded, each word striking like a hammer against glass. "Sarah, he stammered, desperation sinking into his stomach. He wanted to explain, but no words could repair the wreckage he'd caused. While Jake wallowed in guilt, Sarah held tightly to another secret. The quiet resolve she'd fostered during the last decade allowed her to turn their small savings into a hidden fortune of 1 million. All while balancing caring for their kids and supporting his dreams. Every dollar represented her silent rebellion against complacency, a testament to hard work in a world that had become too harsh. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Tension crackled in the air as Sarah revealed her secret. "I invested our savings, Jake. I built something for us while you were busy tearing us apart." The words hung, heavy, in the sunlight streaming through the garage windows. She locked eyes with him, one moment of raw honesty layered with pain. Jake's heart pounded louder than his racing thoughts. The weight of loss thrummed in his chest. He thought about the investments he'd squandered, the nights he'd stayed out too late, and now this his wife, strong enough to build a future he never could. Caught between anger and sadness, Jake was forced to confront not just the distance between them but also his own shortcomings. What they had once dreamt together, flashing back to warm evenings at neighborhood BBQs, seemed forever lost to him. Yet here stood Sarah, poised at a crossroad, her path illuminated by determination. Would she forgive the man who betrayed her or seize the chance to redefine her life? As their children laughed outside, robust and innocent, Sarah wrestled with the heartache and hope. Could love survive the weight of betrayal? Jake realized he was at the precipice of change. Could he win back her trust, heal their fractured bond, and find meaning in an uncertain future? Jake's hands trembled as he processed Sarah's revelation. A hidden fortune? He struggled to fathom the reality. Every moment they'd spent together, every shared dream felt like a lie wrapped in her warmth. Yet here she was, a pillar of strength amidst the wreckage he had caused. How? How did you manage to do that? Jake's voice cracked, the edge of disbelief piercing through him. The garage felt stifling, like a cage built of his own making. The sunlight caught dust motes swirling in the air, illuminating the dark corners where his shame resided. The corners of Sarah's mouth twitched as she fought off tears. It wasn't easy, Jake. I worked late nights, organized projects, made decisions with our kids' future in mind. I wanted to give us something real, something that could lift us when times got tough. Her hands trembled, fingers brushing against the workbench. And then you chose to chase something shallow. Jake's stomach churned with regret. Each installment of their story had been marked by his selfish decisions. He had drowned in his own distractions, neglecting the treasures right in front of him. I'm sorry, Sarah, he croaked, the weight of his apology hanging awkwardly in the air. I never thought about how hard you were working, how much you cared. You stopped noticing me a long time ago, she shot back, pain glistening in her eyes like shattered glass. I was still here, holding us together. You were just gone. The ache in her voice struck like an arrow. Jake wanted to bridge that distance, but every attempt felt ineffectual. Would a simple sorry ever be enough? For the first time, he felt just how far apart they had grown. It's just what do we do now? The question loomed between them, vast and unyielding. Would they navigate this fracture together, or were they destined to drift apart, haunted by their past? I need time, Sarah finally said, each word deliberate. This isn't just about the money, Jake. It's about trust. It's about what comes next, and if I can even trust you to be a part of that future. Words lodged in his throat as he contemplated her request. The familiar pulse of fear shot through him, but amid it all, he sensed a flicker of hope. Maybe this was their moment, the tipping point to begin again. He could face the truth, could prove he wanted to do better not just for Sarah, but for the family they built. I promise I'll show you, he said, desperation uncoiling from his heart, that I can change. I'll do whatever it takes. Sarah nodded, uncertainty still weighing heavily in her gaze. As she gathered her things, preparing to leave the garage for what felt like an eternity, Jake knew he had to act swiftly, to protect the fragile lifeline they were dangling on. Wait, he said, halting her at the door. Can we meet later tonight? Just us? I need to talk about a plan, a real one. About what we can do to us and our kids. The softness in her expression softened into a hint of curiosity. Okay. But remember, Jake. Words won't fix this. Show me. Jake nodded, knowing that this was just the beginning of a long road filled with uncertainty. As Sarah slipped out, he felt both fear and resolve entwining in his chest. With every minute ticking away, he pondered how he could turn this newfound hope into reality. Could he prove that their love was worth fighting for? Could he earn back the trust he had shattered? The children's laughter trickled back into his awareness, grounding him. He glanced around the garage, filled with echoes of missed moments, but he also felt the stirrings of possibility. As night crept in, he prepared himself for the conversation that could change everything. But just as he had finally lifted the weight of his inner turmoil, there came a knock at the door. An unexpected visitor had arrived with a proposition that could turn their lives upside down again. Jake's heart raced. What could this mean for their fragile reunion? Jake opened the door slowly, a kettle of anxiety boiling inside him. Standing there was Mark, his childhood friend and a familiar face from better days. The moonlight reflected off Mark's anxious expression, creating a shadowy aura around him. Hey, Jake, Mark started, his voice low and cautious. I know this might not be the best time, but I need to talk to you. Yeah, sure. Come in, Jake said, motioning for him to enter, even though a sense of dread filled his chest. What could Mark possibly want? Inside the garage, the scent of sweat and oil lingered, remnants of a life Jake had almost lost. They settled on old crates that sat amidst the clutter, Jake feeling the weight of his friend's scrutiny. It's about Sarah, Mark began, his tone heavy. I found out something that you might need to consider. There was a tremor in his voice that sent shivers down Jake's spine. What do you mean? Did she tell you something? Panic stirred within him, mixing with the hope he had begun to cling to. It felt fragile, like glass, a single wrong touch, and it would shatter. No, it's not that. I was at the diner last week and overheard a conversation. Mark hesitated, struggling to find the right words. Somebody mentioned her work and, well, it sounds like she's been involved in something bigger than just organizing projects. Jake's heart hammered in his ears. What are you talking about? He pressed, his voice a fragile echo. Mark glanced around, making sure no one else was listening. They were talking about investments and properties. Apparently, Sarah has been making moves that you might not know about. What do you mean? She's been investing? Confusion washed over Jake like a wave, jarring him. No, she's been working hard for us, for the kids. Mark cleared his throat. That's just that she's been doing that, but there's more. I heard numbers, Jake. Big numbers. There's talk of $1 million fortune. A suffocating silence enveloped the room. Jake could feel the walls closing in, the breath hitching in his throat. His mind raced. "Are you serious?" he managed to choke out. $1 million? Mark nodded solemnly. "It's not about the money, Jake. But what does that say about your relationship? What does she think of you? What do you want to do with this information?" Jake's mind spiraled. All this time, he believed Sarah was struggling, fighting just to keep them afloat. And now he learned she had built something substantial without his knowledge. Would this have made a difference in how he treated her? Could this change everything? "Jake, listen," Mark's voice broke through the fog. "You have a chance here, but you need to decide how to approach this. This might be your way to rebuilding trust, but it could also blow up in your face if you're not careful." The weight of decisions crashed down on him. He could confront her. He could dig deeper. But what would that do to their fragile bridge? Would it crumple under the pressure? The tumult of emotions clawed at him as he replayed every moment with Sarah. "I don't know what to do," Jake whispered, despair creeping into his heart. "What if she feels betrayed by me asking?" "You have to be honest," Mark said, leaning forward. "Both of you need to be honest." Jake swallowed hard, wrestling with the urgency of the moment. He had to tread carefully, with Sarah fragile in her trust. Could they build a path forward when the foundation felt so cracked? As he pondered what to do next, a cold chill passed through the garage. Just then, his phone buzzed loudly, breaking the tense silence. He glanced at the screen and saw Sarah's name flashing. A sudden surge of determination flashed through him. This was their moment. He needed to speak to her now, to learn the truth about everything. "Thanks for coming, Mark," Jake said hurriedly, but his heart raced at the thought of confronting Sarah again. Would she open up? Or would this revelation push her further away? With resolve, he dialed her number, feeling the gravity of the night shift. The call connected, but before she picked up, he felt a crackle of doubt and urgency pulse through him. What kind of truth awaited him on the other end? Jake's heart raced as the phone rang, each tone echoing the thoughts swirling in his mind. Was Sarah ready to share her truth? Would she deny everything he had just learned? He felt the weight of Mark's words, pressing heavily on his chest. "Please pick up," he murmured, a desperate prayer tumbling from his lips. The ringing finally stopped, replaced by the soft sound of her voice. "Hello?" "Sarah," he breathed, struggling to hold on to his composure. "It's me. Can we talk?" There was a tremor in his voice, raw and unsteady, betraying his anxiety. "Jake? Is everything okay?" Her concern wrapped around his heart, both warming and chilling him. How could he turn this conversation into something meaningful and not destructive? "I need to know about your work. I heard things about investments. About money." Silence stretched between them, taut as a wire, and he could practically hear her thoughts racing. "What are you talking about, Jake? Did someone say something?" The tension in her voice struck him hard, a sudden realization flooding his system. This was it, no turning back now. He had to be honest. "I just want to understand. I've heard you've been making a lot of money, Sarah. Is it true?" There was a long pause. Then he heard her release a shaky breath. "Yes, it's true, but what?" he pressed, needing her to understand the urgency in his tone. "Why didn't you tell me?" Her voice lowered, a fragile whisper. "I didn't want you to worry. I didn't want it to change how you see me, how you see us." Jake's chest tightened. "But it's not just about the money. It's about trust, Sarah. Why didn't you think to share this? We're supposed to be a team." "I thought I was protecting you," she said softly, the hurt evident in her voice. "I thought if I worked harder, we'd be okay, that you wouldn't have to carry the weight of everything alone. Why didn't you trust me to be part of that weight?" He shot back, pain slicing through the space between them. He felt betrayal welling up inside him, mixing with a flicker of compassion for her struggles. "I'm sorry." The vulnerability in her voice almost broke him. "I just didn't want you to worry that I was keeping secrets. I didn't want you to think I was going behind your back." "Secrets were kept, Sarah." His voice rose. You may have thought you were helping me, but it feels like you were building a wall instead of a bridge. A shaky silence hung in the air, suffocating and thick. He heard her sharp intake of breath. I didn't mean for it to come to this. I wanted you to be proud of me. I thought our financial struggles might push you away, and I didn't want to lose you. Jake's heart labored under the weight of her words. She had been fighting for them, for their family. He inhaled sharply, trying to form a clear thought amidst the storm swirling in him. Maybe, he began slowly, we need to look at this money as a way to rebuild, not as a reason to tear apart. Rebuild? She echoed, the softness in her tone rekindling a glimmer of hope within him. Yes, he said, his voice steadier now. But we need to be honest with each other going forward. There's a lot to figure out. We need to take down that wall. Jake, she said softly, weaving an apology into her voice, I promise I'll do better. I don't want to hide from you anymore. His heart clenched as he processed her words, a turning point. Yet, deep down, the shadows still loomed. What in the world had her investments led to? Was there more he didn't know? Can we meet? He asked, a flutter of necessity coursing through him. Let us talk face to face. Of course, she replied, her voice steadier now, carrying betrayal and resolve all at once. I'll be there soon. As they hung up, Jake felt a mixture of hope and dread. It was time for them to confront the truth, wading into the shadows together. But lurking beneath the surface, a fresh question emerged. What other secrets waited to be unearthed in their fragile world, ones that could change everything again? Jake paced the living room, his mind racing in circles. The walls felt like they were closing in, each tick of the clock amplifying his anxiety. He replayed their conversation a dozen times, each iteration pulling him deeper into confusion. There was something more to Sarah's investments, something that just didn't sit right. He glanced at the framed photos lining the shelves, happy memories, captured smiles frozen in time. But today, they felt like a mirage, separating him from the reality of Sarah's hidden life. Would they still feel like that if he learned what she was keeping from him? A knock at the door jolted him from his thoughts. Heart pounding, he opened it, revealing Sarah standing there, her expression a medley of resolve and uncertainty. In that moment, everything around them faded away. This was about them, and the cracks in their foundation were showing. Jake, she said, stepping inside, her voice shaky, we need to talk. Yeah, we do, he replied, struggling to keep his voice steady. I think we really do. They settled on the couch, an ocean of space between them that felt almost unbearable. She reached out, her fingers brushing against his hand, breaking the barrier just a little. I need to explain more about my investments, she began, her eyes searching his for understanding. I never meant to hide it from you. I thought I could fix things on my own. Why didn't you trust me? Jake asked, a hint of desperation in his tone. This isn't just about money, Sarah. It's about everything we've built together. Sarah took a deep breath, collecting herself. I wanted to show you that I could take care of things too, that I could contribute in my own way. When I saw how stressed you were about our finances, I thought if I handled it myself, you wouldn't have to worry. I didn't know it would come to this. The words hung heavy in the air. Jake felt a mixture of compassion and frustration. He wanted to believe in her intentions, but the weight of her secrets made that hard. But how far did it go? He pressed gently. What does it really entail? She looked down, a guilty flush creeping onto her cheeks. I invested in several startups that I believed in, including this new tech company. It turned out to be a big success, and before I knew it, I had earned a significant amount. Over $1 million, Jake. I never thought it would get that far. It just spiraled out of control. His mind reeled. $1 million? So you mean we could finally be out of debt, secure a future? Why did you keep this from me? Tears brimmed in her eyes, spilling over. Because I was scared, Jake. Scared it wouldn't be enough. Scared of your reaction. Scared of failing again. I thought you'd see it as a betrayal, another reminder that I had to find my own way. Jake dropped his head, grappling with his emotions. You've accomplished something amazing. But if you had just told me, we could have worked together. Instead, you built this wall. I didn't want it to seem like I was competing with you, she said, her voice breaking. I just wanted to help. I know, but trust is built on honesty, he replied, his heart aching for her struggle. We can't move forward if we don't lay everything on the table. I don't want to lose you. Silence enveloped them, but something felt different this time. The cracks were still there, but they had a chance to mend. So what is the plan now? He asked, a hint of hope threading through his voice. We need to start fresh. Share everything, our finances, our decisions, but we have to be open about it all, she suggested, her voice steadier now. Okay, he said, feeling a flicker of renewed resolve. Let us do that. Let us rebuild. But even as they spoke of rebuilding, a nagging worry persisted in Jake's mind. If Sarah had hidden this, what else could be buried under the surface? That niggling doubt twisted inside him, taking root in the pit of his stomach. What had she left unspoken? As he looked into her eyes, another question emerged. Were they really ready for whatever else might be uncovered? Jake couldn't shake the weight of uncertainty that clung to him. The moment their conversation ended, 1,000 thoughts surged like waves crashing against the shore. Each time he let his mind wander, it took a darker turn. What had Sarah really done? Risky investments could just be the tip of the iceberg. Were there crimes he didn't know about? He watched her, taking in every detail of her face, the way her brow furrowed with concern, the way her lips trembled slightly. The warmth he had once felt toward her was now tangled in confusion and distrust. Sarah, he started hesitantly, is that all of it? Are there no surprises left? She held his gaze, her expression a mixture of sorrow and strength. I wish I could say yes. But there's something else involved. What do you mean involved? Panic tightened around his chest, constricting like a vice. His instincts screamed for him to protect himself, to flee from whatever it was she was about to reveal. I got involved with the tech company's founders, she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. Not in a romantic way, but I did help them secure a few things behind the scenes. He leaned back against the couch, trying to process her words. Help them? What do you mean exactly? They needed a loan, Jake. A big one. They approached me because of my experience. I thought I was being a part of something great, just like I've always wanted. Staring at her, he tried to keep his heart from racing. You took out a loan? Without telling me? How much? Her eyes filled with regret. Half of what I earned. I thought that it would pay off in the long run. I thought I was securing our future, and yours too. His mind spun like a carousel, truth and lies blending in dizzying patterns. You didn't just invest, you leveraged money we didn't have. I wanted to be someone you'd be proud of, she cried out, frustration evident in her eyes. I wanted to make things better. I thought if I turned this investment into gold, you'd see me differently. Jake felt the tears prick at the corners of his eyes. You didn't think I'd be proud of you for being honest? I thought it would be a brilliant move, she cried, panic slipping into desperation. And when it didn't work out well, the founders vanished. Money vanished. I never meant for it to happen this way. The room felt smaller, suffocating. Jake sat up, running his hands through his hair. So we're broke? Again? No, she said quickly. Not yet. They still owe me. What does that mean? He interrupted, his voice sharp. What if they don't pay? What if we're left holding the bag? I'll deal with it, she said, her voice suddenly emboldened. I can go to the police, or the courts. There must be something I can do to find them, and what if going to the authorities puts you in danger? What if it makes everything worse? Her face paled. I didn't think of that, she admitted, her eyes showing the weight of the burden she carried. Silence stretched between them, echoes of frantic breaths filling the space. Jake felt the brilliant life they had together threaten to slip through his fingers like sand. Do you realize what you're asking me to do? He finally said, his voice heavy with emotion. You want me to trust you? To believe that you can make this right? I'm so sorry, Jake, she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. I never wanted this. Just please give me a chance to fix it. As he studied her, He felt the walls begin to close in again, but something deeper gripped him. There was pain, but also resolve. Could they really pull through this together? What now? He asked, almost as a plea. I need to find them. And we need to stick together, Jake. I can't go down this road without you. Maybe it's time we both face some truths, he whispered. He could feel at the pivot point, the turning of promises sealed with uncertainty. What do you mean? Sarah asked, confusion swirling in her eyes. Is it just me, or do we need to find out what else is lurking in the shadows? Before she could respond, another knock reverberated through the house, more insistent this time. A chill ran down Jake's spine. Who else could be on the other side of that door? Stay here, he said, his voice low, but the fear bubbling inside couldn't be contained. Jake, wait, but he didn't. The uncertainty was too great. As he opened the door, he prepared himself for whatever new truth awaited him. Jake swung the door open, bracing himself for chaos. His heart raced, and for a split second, he wished he'd pulled Sarah with him, faced whatever was looming together. Standing there was a man he didn't recognize, but his casual denim jacket and worn sneakers didn't mask the urgency in his eyes. The stranger was holding a small briefcase, the leather aged but well cared for. Jake? He asked, his voice steady but urgent. Yeah? Who are you? Jake replied, crossing his arms defensively. I need to talk to you about Sarah, the man said, glancing over his shoulder as if ensuring they were alone. It's important. Why? What does she have to do with you? Jake felt a tightening in his chest, a premonition that something was not right. She's involved in an investment with a group I was a part of. I'm not here to cause trouble, but we have a serious issue. More serious than I already know. Jake scoffed, frustration welling within him. He stepped closer, wanting to cut through the layers of uncertainty. What do you know? The man hesitated, weighing his words carefully. We're in a terrible situation. The investment was bigger than we anticipated. The founders you're worried about, there's more to it. Jake felt a sudden wave of vulnerability hit him. What do you mean more? You think I'm just going to take your word for it? Look, I get it. Trust is thin right now. But if you want Sarah to come out of this clean, you need to listen closely. The man opened the briefcase and pulled out a file, papers scattered like lost thoughts. Jake squinted at the documents. What's this? They're contracts, venture papers. Sarah's name is all over them. She has yet to claim her stake, the potential payout from the investments. But she needs your help. His mind raced back to their earlier conversation. Sarah had been desperate, pleading for understanding. But this? This was a different kind of urgency. What kind of payout are we talking about? Over $1 million, the man answered, the weight of his words hanging heavy in the air. But here's the catch, there are people who want that money. And they won't let her go easily. $1 million. Jake felt his breath catch, and his heart stumbled. Just when he thought their fortunes had plummeted, a flicker of hope emerged. But it came at a cost, danger. Who are these people? Jake asked, feeling the vulnerability of his own life, and the life they had built together slip dangerously close to chaos. Let's just say their methods aren't clean. If they find out Sarah's gone to the police or anything like that, they'll retaliate. You've got to help her navigate this without stirring the pot too much. Jake felt disoriented. Why do you care? What's your angle in this? The man sighed, his gaze piercing through Jake's defenses. I used to be a part of it. I regret it deeply, and I want to help her make it right. What's the plan, then? Right now, we need to find Sarah before they do. If she disappears for a few days, it could throw them off. I know a place we can hide. Jake's instincts roared to life, unsure and conflicting. The thought of Sarah in danger twisted in his gut. Give me a reason why I should trust you, Jake pressed, his heart still pounding with apprehension. Because if you don't, everything you love could slip away. I promise you, this is an opportunity to protect her. But we need to move fast. As the gravity of their situation sank in, Jake nodded, determination settling over him. Okay. Let us go get her. But as he turned to grab his jacket, a chill swept through him. He couldn't shake the feeling that someone would be waiting for them, lurking in the shadows, ready to snuff out any hope they had left. Jake, wait. There's something else you need to know, the man called after him, urgency clawing at his voice. But before Jake could ask, footsteps echoed from the hallway behind him, closing in. Anxiety slammed into him like a tidal wave. What had he just walked into? And would they make it out together? Jake's heart raced as the footsteps grew louder, each thud echoing the panic that twisted in his stomach. He turned to the man, whose eyes were wide with urgency. Listen to me, I can explain everything, the stranger said, his voice a desperate whisper now. They're coming for you both. We need to move. Who is coming? Jake demanded, his mind grappling with the unfolding horror. Before the man could respond, the door creaked ominously, swinging half open to reveal a shadowy figure silhouetted in the hallway. A rush of adrenaline surged through Jake. The stranger's face turned pale, and he began to back away, glancing frantically around for an escape. Get down! Jake shouted, instinct finally kicking in as he lunged forward, throwing himself in front of the stranger just as a loud bang reverberated through the air. The figure in the hallway had fired a warning shot. Panic erupted. A shard of fear pierced deep into Jake's chest. He shoved the man behind him. What did you bring us into? He barked, breathing heavily, trying to steady his thoughts even as chaos unfolded around them. Trust me, we need to, the man started, but Jake didn't let him finish. With a swift decision, he swung open the door and charged into the hallway, adrenaline pumping. Run! He yelled as he pushed the man ahead of him. They darted down the narrow corridor, seeking refuge. The sound of footsteps echoed behind. There were more coming. The instinct to protect surged through Jake as he dragged the stranger along, but his thoughts were on Sarah. He had to get to her before it was too late. They burst through a back door, stumbling into a dimly lit alley. A flickering streetlight cast eerie shadows around them. Jake paused, scanning their surroundings, assessing the threat, his pulse thundering in his ears. They'll track us, the man urged, anxiety tightening his voice. Then we need to act fast, Jake replied, already formulating a plan. We can't stay here. We have to find Sarah, and we need a car. I know someone, the man said, his eyes wide with desperation. He has a garage near here, but it's risky. Lead the way, Jake pressed, determination hardening his resolve. He'd do anything to protect Sarah, to shield her from the danger that loomed over them. They rushed through the maze of alleyways, adrenaline powering them forward. Each step felt like a countdown. Every shadow appeared as a threat. Jake's heart pounded, the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders, pressing him down. As they turned a corner, they caught sight of a man leaning against an old sedan, his expression cautious but expectant. You made it, he said urgently. What's going on? No time to explain. Jake panted, eyes darting around nervously. We need to move. The stranger swiped a key from his pocket and tossed it to Jake. Get in, he instructed. I'll cover your back. Jake caught the key and wasted no time. They piled into the car, and Jake's fingers fumbled as he turned the ignition. The engine roared to life, and they sped away, leaving behind the shadows of danger. But uncertainty gnawed at Jake. He could feel it lurking behind them. Jake! The man at his side shouted, eyes wide in fear. Sarah's in real trouble. You have to listen to me enough. Jake snapped, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. Just tell me where she is, and we'll figure this out together. As they sped towards an unknown future, Jake felt an overwhelming weight on his heart. What would he do when they found Sarah? And would she even want his help after everything that had happened? Is she safe? He finally asked, fear spilling over as if it could drown him. Far from it, the man replied grimly. Unless we act fast. Jake's mind raced, one thought hovering like a storm cloud. What had Sarah gotten herself into? And then, just as he was about to ask for clarity, a glint of light caught his eye in the rearview mirror. A car was following them, and it was gaining speed fast. Jake's heart dropped. What would happen when they caught up? Would they all be safe, or had he just unleashed a dark tide that could swallow them whole? Jake's knuckles turned white against the steering wheel as he fought to keep the car steady. The pursuer's headlights sliced through the darkness, a predatory gaze that made his heart pound harder. "We have to lose them!" he shouted, panic inching into his voice. The man beside him, whose name Jake still didn't know, nodded, urgency alight in his eyes. "Take a left up ahead. There's a route through the industrial park. It's risky, but it might give us some cover." Jake didn't hesitate. He jerked the wheel, tires screeching as they took the corner. The car's engine roared, echoing in the narrow streets as they picked up speed. The buildings loomed like silent sentinels, cold and unyielding. "Just tell me about Sarah," Jake demanded, keeping his eyes focused on the road ahead. "Is she okay? Where is she?" The man swallowed hard, lips thinning as he considered his words. She was trying to dig up some information. She thought she was close, but some people don't want the truth to come out. They'll do anything to stop her. Jake's breath hitched. "What truth?" Every syllable felt heavy with dread. "That's what we need to find out," the man said, his voice edged with desperation. "But right now, she's in danger. They're watching her, and they think she knows too much. Then we've got to hurry." Jake's resolve hardened. He wasn't going to let fear dictate his choices, not now, not when Sarah was in jeopardy. They sped through the industrial park, shadows from rusted machinery stretching out like dark hands reaching for them. A screech rang behind them, a blend of rubber against asphalt sending a shiver down Jake's spine. The other car was relentless. "We need to lose them for good," the stranger urged, urgency coursing through his words like electricity. "There's a hidden road up ahead. It could take us to the back of the old warehouse. If we can make it to the gates, we might buy ourselves some time." "Hold on!" Jake shouted as he slammed on the accelerator, feeling the car surge forward with a roar. The headlights behind them flickered as the pursuing car tried to keep up, but Jake was determined. Suddenly, he spotted a break in the chain-link fence that surrounded the warehouse. It looked barely wide enough for the car. "That way!" he yelled, hoping he could fit the car through. "Are you crazy?" the stranger gasped, but Jake didn't have time for doubts. He hurtled toward the gap, adrenaline spiking as he aimed for the opening. The car squeezed through, metal scraping against the wire. They burst into a dimly lit area filled with crumbling crates and rusting machinery. Jake took a moment to catch his breath, hearing the faint sound of the pursuing car slowing down outside. For a split second, it felt like safety, but he knew they couldn't rest. "Now what?" Jake panted, glancing at the stranger. "We need to find Sarah and warn her before it's too late," he replied, urgency still thrumming in his voice. "I know where they might have taken her. But it's dangerous, Jake." "Danger is all we have right now," Jake said defiantly. "We need to move faster than before." Just then, a thought struck him, cold and heavy. What if they already found her? What if she's? The word hung in the air between them, filling the space with dread. "You can't think like that," the man snapped, shaking his head fiercely. "We're not losing her. We're going to get her back." With renewed determination, Jake turned the car toward the exit. The shadows danced around him, whispering doubts that he refused to acknowledge. He had to believe they were still in time. As they reached the gap in the fence, Jake's eyes caught flickering lights in the distance. "That's where she is," he said, pointing. "The abandoned warehouse on Mill Street." The revelation rang in the air like a bell. They had to hurry, but they weren't alone. The growl of an engine roared from behind them. More cars were coming, and this time, they weren't just chasing. They were closing in for the kill. Jake pressed the gas, heart racing. Would they make it in time to save her, or were they walking into a trap that would change everything? Jake's heart raced as he slammed the gas pedal, the engine roaring like a wild beast beneath him. The sprawling shadows of the abandoned warehouse loomed closer, and with every inch they gained, a cyclone of desperation whipped through him. The thought of Sarah consumed him. Where was she? Was she safe? The streets blurred by, a chaotic streak of darkness illuminated by the headlights behind them. Those pursuing them were relentless, each engine revved stronger than the last, like wolves hunting their prey. "There they are!" the stranger shouted, pointing. Jake squinted through the windshield, catching the figures flashing past the crumbling structures. Panic surged anew. "We're running out of time. Hang on!" he yelled as he took a sharp turn toward the warehouse. Dust kicked up behind them, a trailing fog of urgency. They careened into an empty lot, surrounded by twisted metal and peeling paint, with nothing but eerie silence hanging in the air. Jake cut the engine and hopped out of the car, his boots thudding against the gravel. "This way," he urged, gesturing to the dark entrance. The stranger followed closely, both of them fueled by the frantic hope of finding Sarah. Inside, the warehouse felt vast and cold. Jake's heart pounded in sync with the shadows creeping around him. Echoes of their steps reverberated along the walls, a haunting melody, a reminder of how fragile everything felt. "Where do we start?" the stranger breathed, eyes wide and scanning their dim surroundings. "Right here." "We check for any commotion," Jake replied, determination hardening his resolve. He had to stay focused. "We'll make noise, let them know we're here." They moved deeper into the shadows, stepping cautiously, hearts racing. Jake's instincts screamed at him, urging him to turn back, but he could already picture Sarah's face, the strength and determination she always showed, even when facing relentless storms. He couldn't let her down again. "Jake, over here!" the stranger whispered, beckoning him towards a door at the far end. Together, they crept closer, and Jake pushed it open, heart thundering. The scene inside sent chills through him. Sarah was tied to a chair in the center of the room, disheveled but alive. A group of men loitered nearby, their voices low and conspiratorial. "Sarah!" Jake gasped, rushing forward despite the stranger's warning. He had to get her out, every second mattered. One of the men turned quickly, his expression morphing from surprise to aggression. "You shouldn't have come here," he growled, lunging toward Jake. Instinct kicked in, and Jake dodged, grabbing a rusty pipe lying nearby. "Get away from her!" he shouted, raising the makeshift weapon defiantly. The stranger joined him in battle stance, fists clenched. "We'll fight for her!" he yelled, a fierce resolve glowing in his eyes. The men exchanged glances, uncertainty flickering for a brief moment in their hardened features. But it quickly faded, replaced with rage as they charged forward. Jake swung the pipe wildly, adrenaline lending him strength, every blow fueled by the loving thoughts of Sarah. She didn't deserve any of this, she deserved freedom and safety. Each hit felt like a pulse of hope. But soon he was grappling with a larger man, muscles straining, the world narrowing to just him and the threat before him. "Sarah!" he shouted again, desperately hoping she could hear him through the chaos. "Jake!" she cried back, her voice breaking through the din like a lifeline. "The keys are on the table. Please get me out." In that moment, clarity hit him like a tidal wave. The keys were crucial. He broke free from his attacker, shoving him aside with every ounce of strength left in him, and dashed across the room to snatch the keys from the table. "Now!" he yelled to the stranger, who was currently battling another man. Jake could see fear and anger flashing in Sarah's eyes. The fight was not just for her life, but for everything they'd built. With a wild flick of the wrist, he unlocked her restraints. "We're getting out," he declared, urgently pulling her to her feet as the chaos continued around them. "We need to hurry," she gasped, her face pale but determined. As they fought their way to the door, Jake felt courage swell in his veins. The stranger covered their retreat as they dove through the doorway into the cool night air. The sounds of shouts and confusion echoed behind them, but they were outside, racing toward the car, hearts transcending past fear. "Get in!" Jake yelled, shoving Sarah into the vehicle and diving in beside her. "Go, go, go!" The roar of the engine felt like a salvation. They sped away from the warehouse, cars and shadows winking out of sight like ghosts. "We made it!" Sarah exhaled, her voice trembling. Jake glanced over at her, her face illuminated by the headlights. Despite everything, her eyes held fire, a spark that warmed the fear chilling his heart. Is anyone hurt? Jake asked, his voice breaking slightly. I'm okay, just shaken, Sarah replied, gripping his hand tightly. But we need to figure out what to do next. They're not going to stop. I know, Jake said, adrenaline still pumping through his system. But we can face this together. I promise I won't let any more walls come between us. Tears shimmered in her eyes, but they were different this time. We need to be a team, Jake. No more secrets. Yes, he breathed, squeezing her hand. We'll rebuild. Together. As they sped toward the dawn, the weight of their ordeal still heavy but mingling with a glimmer of hope, Jake realized this was more than survival. They were on the brink of transformation, a chance to make their love stronger, to face whatever darkness tried to overshadow their light, and at that moment, together, they were ready to take on whatever lay ahead. Now is your chance to be part of this journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support, it really makes a difference. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. I want to hear what you think. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support, don't wait not even one more second. Your engagement is what keeps this community alive.